this is a very significant visit for the chairman. I mean, and I think that the fact that Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General C.Q. Brown, visiting along with the head of U.S. Africa Command, General Michael Langley, is a very, very important symbol for African leaders to see right now, because there has been a significant change, as we know, with Niger happening. There's been a significant change. The U.S. is pulling out about 1,000 forces from the continent. So having these two leaders there makes a big statement. And it's also a learning time for the United States. General Brown told reporters that he would be talking to various partners during this conference to try to get a feel for what their objectives are and what their goals are for a U.S. military presence and a U.S. military partnership.
So what challenges does the U.S. face in maintaining alliances and counterterrorism efforts in the region?
Well, of course, the U.S. has strings attached to its military. You know, the U.S. doesn't work with just anyone. They have to stand up for democracy. So when there's a coup, the U.S. military is legally barred from supporting a government that took over from a democratically elected government and took them over. So that causes an issue for the United States, an issue that Russia doesn't have. And that's why a lot of the coup belt that we see, the Nigers, the Malis, Burkina Fasos, they try to work with the Russians as opposed to the U.S. But the U.S. does see a lot of areas where they could partner. And there has been an increased interest, according to Chairman Brown and General Langley, with a partnership with the United States. There is an opening. You know, there are hundreds of forces, hundreds of U.S. troops moving out of Niger. They could potentially go somewhere else. And while those generals will not say who is talking with them at this point, because of course they want to give these countries the openness to have these negotiations, officials do say that areas like Benin or Ghana or Ivory Coast are interested in deepening their partnership with the U.S.
What could make these three countries some viable options?
Well, I mean, we'll have to see in the coming days. And I should also point out that Chad, you know, U.S. forces pulled out of Chad. That was a temporary move, officials tell me. That could be an area where they negotiate having a greater U.S. troop presence. But those would be areas where the U.S. could still potentially continue their counterterror mission. I mean, the biggest reason that the United States was in West Africa was to oversee and to look at all of these terrorist groups that have just exploded in the region. And so that would be what the U.S. could definitely provide them via drones, via training, exercises, to help them be better prepared to fight those terrorists.